Warhammer is a complicated game. Despite efforts to reduce the complexity in 10th edition, it is still a game with a chonky core rulebook. Many varied, complicated armies, each with their complicated units, with their different rules and interactions between two different units, two different armies, the armies and the core rules and the stratagems, and all of those bits in between. Whilst it's certainly not as bad as it was in 9th, which was... yeah. For new players, 10th edition can still be a very intimidating game to get into. Starting an army and mastering an army requires knowledge of all of these different combinations you can do with stratagems, units, and other buffs and auras. But just having the knowledge of those combos and stacking buffs you can give to units within your army is only the first step of the equation. You don't need to just know what they are. You need to know when to use them, when's the best time to use them, how to use them, making sure you're positioned correctly to use them, to make sure that you're targeting the right things at the right time. And even then, if you haven't got all that, that's not the end of the story, because now you have to try and make sure that you communicate your plan, what you're doing, to your opponent, to the point where your opponent understands how they're going to die. This is a lot trickier than it sounds, and it's something I fall over a lot, trying to make sure I've got everything in my head to understand how I'm going to do what I want to do, and how I'm going to then communicate that with my opponent. In my most recent game, there was a single unit that took me 15 minutes to attempt to try and actually just get the shooting done, because the number of stacking rules and interactions and trying to choose the targets just got me disoriented and confused, like I was listening to 1989's Belgian techno anthem, Pump Up the Jam. To really picture this and to really put my point across, I want to go through the unit in question, what they can do, and what I was trying to do with them. And you'll see pretty quickly that things can get out of control in this game, even with the more simplified rule set and the less stratagems. Scarab Occult Terminators. One of the mainstays of Thousand Suns, Scarab Occult Terminator blocks have been just the best thing since I started playing in 9th edition. They're tanky, they're deadly, and whilst expensive, I always think they're worth the point, especially so in 10th edition. You can throw a Terminator in Sorcerer armor, that's the wrong way around, a Sorcerer and Terminator armor into the mix, and then suddenly they're even more powerful. So a block of 10 plus the Terminator Sorcerer, and you get quite a lot of options. Let me just go through just the weapons they have, and then I'll start going through some of the interactions. So within this block, you have 9 combi bolters. These are rapid fire 2, which means that if they're within half range, they get 2 attacks extra, which means they get 4 instead of 2. You can also get 2 Soul Reaper cannons, which are 6 shots, but they're devastating wounds, so they're also very good. Strength 6, very nice. You also get 2 Hellfire missile racks, which are an anti-tank weapon, which are also very good. They don't really get any other benefits from any buffs, and they don't have anything on their profile, but they're also very nice to have. On top of that, you also have in Scarab Occult Terminator Sorcery, you have an anti-inventory spell, Warp Smite. And on top of that, you also have the anti-monster and vehicle spell that the Terminator Sorcerer gives you, the Coruscating Flames. So within a unit of 11 models, you have 5 different weapons. But wait, the Sorcerer and Terminator armor also gives lethal hits to the unit through Empiric Guidance, so all of your attacks have lethal hits. The Terminator Sorcerer also gives reroll 1s to one enemy unit if you've marked them with their ability Marked by Fate. For 1 CP, you can use Ensorcelled Infusion, which makes all of the bolters in the unit Strength 5 and Psychic. By becoming psychic weapons, they actually benefit from your Kindred Sorcery, which is probably going to be Psychic Maelstrom, which means they have sustained hits, so 6 to hit and now lethal and sustained. But wait, because they're also psychic, you get +1 to hit and wound if Magnus is Lord of the Planet of Sorcerers is within 6 inches, so another CP rolls and 9 inches, another range rerolls, hitting and wounding, there are 9 psychic yeah, that's a lot for one unit. Now that you've gone through just all of what they have, now you have to decide who's attacking what. This is the situation I was in turn 2 of the game. Around my Scarab Occult Terminators, there are 4 potential targets. To simplify things for myself a little bit, I destroyed this bloat drone that only had 1 wound left with my Infernal Master. That means I now have 3 targets to go after. 2 characters and a Plague Burst Crawler. Let's start with the obvious. Hellfire Missile Racks are going into the Plague Burst Crawler. They're anti-tank weapons, no-brainer. Again, with the anti-tank weapon, clearly it's got devastating wounds and it's anti-vehicle, anti-monster. That's going into the Plague Burst Crawler. Now, this is where it started to fall apart. I wanted to split the rest of the unit half and half between these 2 characters. It made sense to me. They're both of equal value here, and I feel like I can probably kill both with splitting the whole unit in half. So 1 Soul Reaper cannon into 1 Soul Reaper cannon into the other. With me so far, that's not so bad. The other benefit here is, as you can see, Magnus is not nearby, so at least I don't have to worry about the +1 to hit, +1 to wound, but I did give these guys the psychic upgrade. So they are getting sustained hits and lethal hits, which is a no-brainer, really, with the number of combi bolter shots you get. The issue I have is only half or so of the actual unit is within 12 inches, so only half of them are benefiting from rapid fire. So I measured it out and thought, not too bad here. 6 of them in half range, 4 of them aren't. So I've decided I'm going to make sure, so I've got 6 times 4, which is 24, and I've got 4 times 2, which is 12. No, it's not, it's 8. You see, even now I'm making mistakes with the maths. Yes, 24 plus 8, 32. I just want to make sure that 3 of the ones in half range and 2 of the ones not in half range are going into one, and the other half are going into the other. And then the smite can just go into one of them. I chose the Tallyman in this case. In attempting to explain this to my opponent, I was stumbling over like I am now, trying to work out exactly how many in rapid fire, trying to work out the number of dice I need, and it just becoming a mess. And then, as some eagle-eyed amongst you might have already realized, my opponent dropped a massive bombshell on me. That guy does not have a combi bolter. That is a Soul Reaper cannon. I had accidentally added an extra combi bolter to the whole equation, which meant it no longer was easily divisible by 2. So already before all this had even happened, I'd made a positioning mistake by having this guy at the front. This guy should have been at the back. He's got longer range weapons. He doesn't have to benefit from rapid fire. So now I was trying to make sure I had 5 and 4, and then trying to work out which way to split, and it was becoming a mess. I was trying to explain it to Steve. Steve was trying to understand it because he didn't know the rules, and every time I was trying to do something, so does that benefit from devastating wounds? No, that's the Soul Reaper cannons. They benefit from devastating wounds. I only have lethal hits on these, and sustained hits because of psychic. But do you get +1 to hit and wound? No, because Magnus is over here. This is how not to deal with these situations. Steve offers some very good advice that I'm going to share with all of you. Do it model by model. For each model you have, what's it doing? The Sorcerer has a combi bolter, and he has his anti-tank spell. Combi bolter is going into one of the characters, anti-tank spell going into the tank. You then set a pool of dice for those attacks and put it to one side. And you go down for each model in the unit, working out their range, whether they're rapid fire or not, whether they're a Soul Reaper cannon, and what they're doing with their weapons. Am I glad that I destroyed that bloody bloat drone? Because if I had 4 different targets to go after, I would just completely lose it. I just completely failed at communicating it, managed to get myself horrendously confused, got Steve horrendously confused, and it took about 15 or 20 minutes just to get through this interaction, which I guess is part of the course of Tzeentch's massively overcomplicated future plans, right? And all of this was just with one stratagem, just the one to make it psychic. And by making it psychic, it suddenly interacts with so many more rules. Even just the benefit of being strength 5 interacted here, because going against toughness 5 means I'm going from 5s to hit to 5s to wound to 4s to wound. I'm even confusing myself in this recording. Is this something you struggle with? Do you have any advice in these situations that you've come across? Let me know in the comments below. I always love reading them. I always love seeing what you guys have to say. But that'll be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy this, go ahead and like, comment, subscribe. All that good YouTube stuff. I also now stream on Twitch, so if you want to see me go insane playing games like this. No, I'm having a good time. I'm having a good time. I'm having a great time. I'm having such a fun time jumping in this fucking sewer. I am just losing every fiber of my fucking being. Follow me over there and also join the Discord as well if you want to. But once again, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.